Hi, I'm Manny Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller forecast for Sagittarius for August 2016. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog, sign up for my free email newsletter, become part of my community, and if you're interested in learning astrology with me with a small group of astrology-loving zealots, maybe there will be a slot or two left by the time you watch this for my astrology apprenticeship program. So check it out. And if you would like to get involved with online business, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. So what's going on in the month of August? This is a really important month because it's the time before the eclipses. And if you know anything about eclipses, if you've watched my reports for a while, then you know that you can start to get important news from the eclipses 4 to 6 weeks before they start to occur. So the first eclipse is not until, well, both eclipses are in September, and I will go into way more detail about the eclipses in September's reading. But it's important to know for now that as of the end of July, you can start to have life-altering news come in from the eclipses. So there is a theme, especially starting from around August 10th on, of rest and respond. Until then, like all of July, the beginning of August up until the 10th or so, we've got this strong energy saying, burn brightly. So I'm going to go into more detail about this, the timing, and some of the other general transits and questions to ask and ways to max out those potentials. But first I want to talk about some things specific to Sagittarius. So this month, all of the early and middle degree placements have a massive amount of energy in the 9th house. You late degree placements are going to have this happening soon. It's going to be staggered a little bit. You still have a strong influence in the 8th house. To figure out if you're an early, middle, or late degree placement, you can check out the notes underneath this video. If you scroll down through this video where it says more info and you scroll to the bottom, and I'll have the designations down there as to how you can figure out if you're early, middle, or late degree placement. So the early and middle degree placements, and coming soon for the late degree placements, have this energy of everything Saggy. And that is because there is a huge congregation of energy in your 9th house, your solar 9th house. These aren't planets in the sign of Sagittarius, they're planets in the house of Sagittarius. But it doesn't matter. If a planet is in the sign or the house, it's still carrying huge Sag energy. So I have some recommendations for how you can really max out when the planets are in Sag, house or sun. One thing that you can do, and you might find yourself already doing this without purposely, is to go on a book bender. I am famous for these book benders myself because I have 9 placements in Sagittarius between house and sign, and I'm everything Saggy to the nth degree. And I can't tell you how many times I would come home carrying more bags of books than I could carry. I have books piled up on my nightstand. I have books piled up in my office. Books are just everywhere. And sometimes I would go to the library and take out like 25 books at a time. That's a book bender. That's a perfect thing to do when this energy is brewing really strongly. You can also go on an online research bender where you're just hungry for knowledge. It's just, that's what it really is this voracious desire to learn. It's a voracious desire to teach. Some people who have been learning might feel this switch just flip where they're just ready to pour out and start teaching. And for most Sages, this is going to be a key to your happiness. You can take information in, but at some point, in order to have everything moving clearly within your chakras, within your body, you've got to start to have some balance with what you're putting out, your output versus your input. Many Sages that I know of, myself included, had for a certain amount of their lives just stuff coming in, and then something switched for me about 10 years ago, and ever since then, it's not that I don't learn and take information in, I do, but the ratio of just stuff pouring out is just changed. So you might find that this might be this push that you need to start getting your wisdom out into the world. And that's very much what the Sag energy is about. You can also go on a bender involving writing, editing, anything involving church or spiritual topics, philosophy. You can get perspective. This is another very key point with everything Sagittarius. I just recently came back from an epic month-long trip in Alaska. I love Alaska. It's like a second home for me. And I was just there for a nice long time. And while I was there, I had my camera You can see one of the pictures I took behind me. And I was laying in the grass, had my feet in the air, just like everywhere, taking pictures of different perspectives. I'm not a photographer, I'm not trained, but I realized on this trip that part of what makes me get some really good shots is because my it's this saggy way of gaining perspective. When you change just an inch or just a tilt something on an angle and you look at it a different way, it looks totally different. And Sages are awesome at this. Sometimes we can get stuck in something and now is the time maybe to take our own good advice, which is to look at something a different way. So think about how a different camera angle, a different, shift to what you're looking at can drastically change your quality of experience and how you show up in this world. It's very exciting. Something else really saggy that you can do, if you haven't done this in a while, you're probably due for it because Sages need this, is to explore, to go out and geographically roam at will. Go to a neighboring town that you've never been to. Find a tea house or coffee house in a place 2 hours away and make it a destination. Go just for the sake of going somewhere. I think it's good for everybody, but Sages really, really need this. It's like air. It's air to us. So this is another way that you can really, really enjoy the energy of this time. Something else you can do is to learn about a religion or belief that's different than yours. Sages are also in general notorious for this, although some Sages can be zealots within their religion. That is one of the possible expressions where they do whatever they're doing to the nth degree. Many Sages that I know are very much into the oneness behind all religions. So sometimes going to learn about how other people see things. Again, this is kind of a little twist on the getting perspective, to see how other people in the world are looking at things and how that relates to things for you and things for the world can be very inspiring. This is a time where inspiration can run very deep and very wide because we already look for and find inspiration pretty easily. But this is a time where we're just lit up. It's just lit up. All those planets in Leo are just complementary to our Sag energy. I'll talk in a little bit about how to max out the energy of Leo and Virgo, which are two things that are dominating this month for the general astrology. But I want to spend a little time for the late degree placements. If your ascendant is between 20 and 29 degrees, or your birthday is like from the 12th or 13th through the end of the sign, you're going to have these other things coming up, but you're going to have some 8th house focus as well. So a couple of things for you. You can work on being a little more vulnerable. And I think that these things I'm going to recommend are going to be good for the early and middle degree placements just in general, but this is something specific for the late degree placements that's very current right now. So being a little bit more vulnerable. Sages in general can be completely unaware of how emotionally affected they are by things because you have such a good attitude. You say, oh, I'm not bothered by that. I'm not, that doesn't bother me. And that's cool for us. But at the same time, people around us often wish that we were a little bit more vulnerable. And I think that in general, we would have to work a little less hard if people could see that we do have a vulnerability more. Because when people see vulnerability, they're more inclined to help and assist and work together. So you might be able to take some things off of your plate by just sharing your vulnerability. Something else you can do is work on a project with someone, share power. Sages are infamous for being able, or really wanting and being very good at following their own flow. They want to follow their own flow. So sometimes when you're working with someone else on something, you can't follow your own flow. But there could be something enriching in that at this time. Also going very deep into study about something. Sometimes Sages, I'm sure you know this one well, will have 15,000 books on their nightstand with bookmarks and all of them not finished with almost any of them, but just kind of like skimming the surface and saying, okay, I got it. What else? What's next? This energy of Scorpio or the 8th house really talks about going deeper into one thing, like picking something and really just kind of being consistent with it. And consistency can sometimes make Sages a little bit twitchy unless you have some other placements that make you really good at this. Sag energy doesn't really enjoy, sticking with certain things for too long. They get a little twitchy, but this could be enriching for you now. Also, learning more about money and investing could be very much called for. A couple of books that may be of interest to you that are fascinating to me, that make perfect sense to me. One is called The Last Safe Investment. This is a fascinating book. It's just amazing and very eye-opening. And this I recommend for all Sages. And The 4-Hour Workweek is one of my new favorite books. So those are the things that are specific for Sag. Now I want to talk more about the Mercury retrograde, the Leo and Virgo energies, how we have August divided into two sections, August 1st through August 10th, and then the rest of the month, how the eclipses may come into play. Just light, we'll talk about the eclipses lightly and then do more next month for that. We can break down August into two pretty separate and distinct parts. The first is August 1st through 10th, and the rest is after August 10th for the rest of the month of August. There are energies that are very well sort of defined in that time. And so the first part of August has this theme of burning bright. It's this brilliant Leo energy, and I'll go into more about how to capture, enhance, and really, really use this Leo energy. But first I want to place this period of time, August 1st through August 10th, its importance in the whole scheme of the year. When we finally had Mars go direct at the end of June, that opened up this window that started at the beginning of July and runs through August 10th of this. It's an open window for pushing things through. We've had a massive amount of retrograde energy this year, and we haven't had a lot of windows open for just blazing forward. But one of those windows is now in this beginning of August. So if you are watching this early, great, because you have all of July as well. If you're listening to this later and you have just the beginning part of August, then at least you can use it to its max. So when the stars are going backwards, it lends itself to going backwards, being more relaxed, going back over things, not launching things, not doing new things, not making big decisions. When Mars was in retrograde, there are a whole slew of other things we weren't focusing on or weren't good to focus on. But now in this time period with August 1st through August 10th, it's like you have permission and it's encouraged to just blaze forward. So anything that you have to get done, any kind of launches, any bringing something out into the world, anything where you're doing something officially, like getting an LLC or getting engaged or even getting married, or anything that you're locking into place for a while, this energy is just so good for that. And there are some really beautiful dates. August 1st with Venus and Uranus in a beautiful transit. We've got August 2nd with the new moon in Leo. We've got August 10th with a Mercury and Pluto trine. And there are some other really nice transits throughout the rest of August. But the problem with the rest of August, as far as doing new things or being decisive or launching things, is that as of August 10th, the Mercury shadow period starts again. So every day we get closer to August 30th, between August 10th and August 30th, you're getting more deeply entrenched in that retrograde Mercury energy. That's lending itself to short-term things. A misconception about Mercury retrograde is that you can't do anything in Mercury retrograde, and that's totally not true. You can check out my Mercury retrograde blog on my website, AnnieHelpsYou.com. You can also check out my Mercury retrograde video on my Annie Botticelli YouTube channel to see more about the do's and don'ts and why we have these do's and don'ts. But it's really fine to do things during Mercury retrograde. You just have to understand that they have a shorter shelf life than you usually expect or plan. So if you just plan to do things that are short term during that time, then you're more protected that way. So let's say you have to move. If you move into a place where you have to have a year lease when Mercury's in retrograde, there's a good chance you're not going to finish that lease till the end. But if you can move into a place with a 4 to 6 month lease or a month to month lease, something like that. Or if you're a contractor and you have a short-term contract, if you're starting something short-term, you're more protected. There's still the legality, the agreements, things that could get botched up there or disorganized or not clearly relayed. But it's more of something that you're trying to do longer term, like getting married or like, starting a business, doing something official, launching a brand new website or project that you've been working on forever. Those are things that you want to carry some longevity to them, and you want their birth date to be in a time that's not lending itself to short-term ventures. I can't tell you how many times I've watched businesses in places I've lived open up with great concepts, great customer service, opening in a Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, or Mercury retrograde time, and they're closed in a very short amount of time. So hopefully that will help you differentiate the energy between a long-term venture started and a short-term venture. So if you're trying to do something long-term, get it busted out by August 10th. If you're doing something short-term, you have more opportunity to work with things. So something else that is important about the month of August is that you're prime in the energy of eclipse season. Eclipse season happens twice a year, and it's usually associated with major changes. For some people, it's completely life-altering changes. For others, you have to kind of look a little bit to really notice what the changes are. Maybe it's a subtle change in perception. Maybe it's a different direction you're moving in, but it doesn't feel like a big deal, but it's something different. Depending on how the eclipse is hit in your personal chart, is usually going to show you the magnitude of the experience for you. So when you've got the 4 to 6 week period before the eclipses start, anytime news can come in. These eclipses have a long range opportunity for bringing news. So the first eclipse is September 1st. That's a solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Virgo. The second eclipse is September 16th. It's a lunar eclipse at 24 degrees of Pisces. And so we're continuing into this Pisces-Virgo polarity that has been going on for a while. It's going to carry us into 2017 with its effects. So usually the recommendation for eclipse time is to rest and respond, because things will likely happen that will need your attention. It might be that you're supporting someone else or other people who are having the radical change, but you need to be there to show up for them. It might be that you're the one having the big changes, or it might be both. So it's not generally recommended to blaze forward or push things through or take things on during the eclipse time, because you want to keep your plate clear so that when news comes in, you're ready to respond. Very often someone will do something decisive during an eclipse time, only 1 or 2 weeks later to have something happen that totally, changes the direction. I'm going to talk at length about the eclipses next month, because that's the month they actually occur in. But I really had to mention them now because many people are going to start to get life-changing news. And I want you to understand them in the broader perspective of things, that, it's the time to sort of rest and respond. So that's why I'm calling this month, the theme is burn bright and then rest and respond, because with all these planets in Leo, we have these opportunities with everything Leo based, which is very much centered around just burning brightly, creativity, happiness, joy, romance, fun. Some questions to ask that can really assist you with maximizing the Leo energies is, how can you burn more brightly? Are you really rocking your life? If you're not, this Leo energy can really help you to do that. Leo rules anything from being fabulous with your hair and your clothing to being fabulous with your gifts and your talents, acting, singing, instruments, athleticism. This energy of Leo is just very much embodying burning bright, how you're showing up in the world, your creativity, what makes you sizzle. So you can ask the questions, what needs to happen for you to feel more inspired? How can you change your routine? How can you bring things into your life that make you feel excited and ready to burn bright? How can you have more fun? How can you have more romance in your life? These are questions to ask and answer when you have a strong amount of Leo energy. So this started in July. So if you're watching early, you can really start to maximize this. And then really until like that first third of August, up until around August 10th, that Leo energy is just absolutely sizzling. And then it starts to fade more into Virgo being in more dominance. Other questions to ask with the Leo energy is, how can you step more into leadership? Many times we can learn a lot more by teaching, and sometimes there are opportunities around for us to step into that place and we're not feeling ready to take them. But this period of time is the one where it's time to try to step into that. I have a really good friend who is an artist, and she has a lot of Leo energy, but she hasn't really been stepping into a role of teaching or leadership. She's been very unique in her expression. And then some opportunities came along where she had a chance to start teaching. And that makes me think of this energy where she was like, gosh, I've never done that before. And she was almost going to say no to it, except that I happened to be there with her when this opportunity was presented. And I was like, hello, you need to do that right now. And that's what this energy is like. If you don't think of yourself as a teacher, if you don't think of yourself as someone that can stand before someone and lead them into something, maybe it's time to rethink that, because so many people are really supposed to be stepping into that, and this is the energy that can assist you. How can you have more enriched and enriching relationships with children? How can you bring this childlike wonder of awe and inspiration into your daily life? These are all Leo-based energies, so you can have a lot of great practices around how can you be more Leo-like in this time to really, really just burn bright. Then the energy shifts, and the Virgo energy is present all month, but it shifts into more strength after the first third of the month. And that's when you can start asking these questions more like, how can you get better systems together? How can you get more organized? How can you be more disciplined and have an attitude of service? There's so much that is dependent on how we approach things, Approaching something with a humble heart is an amazing spiritual practice. I think maybe we've all come into connection with someone who is not in the spirit of humble service, and so you might think, well, if you've accomplished a lot, then you're not in that place of service anymore. You're doing service so that you can get into your other place. Some people think this. And I don't believe it's true. As spiritual beings having a human experience, having an attitude of being in service to humanity is a very important question for your fulfillment. And this energy of Virgo can assist you with really embodying being in service to humanity, having better and more interactions with animals and pets, how you can improve your health, how you can improve your diet and your lifestyle and your regimen, how you can improve your daily experience. That's a big one. And how smart can you work? This is a theme that you've heard coming up for a while, because Jupiter has been in Virgo, and so everything Virgo has been expanded since last summer. And in August, we're at the end of Jupiter expanding Virgo. So all of these Virgo lessons that the personal planets are bringing up very strongly in short term this month is like the culmination of this long-term energy with Jupiter and Virgo saying, how can you leave this transit with better systems in place, everything more organized and productive, everything more fulfilling, you enjoying everything more because everything is well organized, having more discipline in the right places, maybe having less discipline in certain places, and really, in some ways, most importantly, how smart can you work? So many of us are programmed that you have to work hard, and that really gets into your psyche. You have to work hard, and you might find yourself always asking, why am I working so hard? It doesn't have to be that hard. That's a good question, and it doesn't have to be that way. And this transit in the short term, with all of this culmination of Virgo energy and this ending of Virgo with Jupiter energy, is really saying, okay, why don't you work smarter? I made a recommendation, I think it was last month, called a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. The 4-Hour Work Week is just a phenomenal book that can help change your mindset, plus give you practical things to do just to work less and make more, which makes a lot of sense. So the overview of the month again is the first third of the month, August up through August 10th. You want to burn bright, do all your launches, do all your initiating, and then start to move into this rest and response mode. Mercury goes retrograde August 30th. That runs through September 22nd. The shadow period starts August, pretty much it's around August 10th. That's why there's that cutoff. And then the shadow period at the end runs until October 7th. So once this window closes August 10th, you're kind of in quiet, not launching response mode until October 7th. And then you've got the last window of the year, which in coming months I'll talk at length about, August 7th through the first days of December, which is our last window of the year to really push things forward. So try to do what you can until August 10th. Anything you can't get done, just table it, rework it, and then wait for your final launch period of 2016. And that's a really important one too, because Venus is going to be retrograde early in 2017. So you're going to want to bust out as many things in that last window of the year as possible. So take it in consideration when you're making your plans. So if you'd like some assistance with putting all this into practice, go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blogs, sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my community, gives you access to all kinds of cool things. If you want some self-development assistance, Unleash Your Money Magnet, Shine, my 28-day virtual coaching program, and my Subliminal Train Your Brain programs are all on there. Also, if you'd like to learn astrology, depending on when you're listening to this, there might be a few slots left in my astrology apprenticeship program, which is where you join with a group of fellow astrological zealots with me on a journey through the stars and yourselves. And if you're interested in taking your healing business online, check out my Creating Successful Online Business course. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.